I think the reason for the topic of partnerships in real estate is that it is so many different aspects of this business. And I rarely know people that really are great in all of them or they excel in all of them. It's very rare. I'm sure there are some. We met some great syndicators, for example.
Mm,
For them to be the one that raises the money, operates the deal, they're great with numbers and they're great with people. It's just, there's a lot to it. So
mhm.
what ends up happening is you become, you quickly learn that you cannot be good at everything. And you really need to hone in on what you're good at and start to build partnerships.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke, and today we have Liz Faircloth. Liz is the co-founder of the DeRosa Group out of Trenton, New Jersey. Family-owned investment group, and she's also a fellow podcaster. Liz, thank you so much for joining us on the show. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me, Dwaine. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. We know a lot of the same people, especially here in the Northeast and New Jersey and stuff. So I was glad to finally connect. But for people who are not familiar with, I know I'm following your husband as far as like a lot of the content, education information that he provides, but want to learn a little about you because you're the valuable second half as well, and very valuable podcaster, and a lot of information from you. But would you mind telling us about your background, how you got started in real estate?
Sure, absolutely. So probably about 14 years we've been at this game of investing. And we started probably right outside of Philadelphia. And my husband and I would, at the time he was my boyfriend, would get together and, just chat about our future, what we wanted our lives to look like. He at the time was an engineer in a company full-time. And at that point I was in graduate school about to enter my first job, my first, kind of that first corporate opportunity. And him and I just always brainstormed about what we wanted our life to be. And my brother-in-law at the same time gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was in my mid-20s, and my husband a little older than me, but for us, both of us were in our 20s, and we're like, this is amazing. Like, we just never thought about those things. I know everyone says that's really something that opened their eyes, but it did open my eyes as well in terms of active income, passive income. I really never got introduced to the idea of passive income before, to be honest with you, before that book. So that just really got me thinking and got us thinking about what we wanted our lives to be and what kind of impact we wanted to make and all those good things. So in there, he talks a lot about real estate, and him and I both, he had just bought a property at the time. And what was cool about it was he bought a property, he had two roommates, and they were paying him rent, and he made about $60 every month. So he didn't know he was house hacking. Right now it's called house hacking. He didn't know he was house hacking at the time. And he's like, this is amazing. This is pretty cool. Right. So I have a home and I'm getting paid $60 a month. So, wow, how can we do more of this? And again, simultaneously, read the book. And so we said, let's buy our first rental. So we took about a year of courses at a local REIT group. That's really what where you got education at that time. And finally pulled the trigger and bought a duplex about 2004 was our first duplex. And then grew our portfolio from there, twists and turns, and lots of things kind of happened in between those years. But multifamily has always been, we started with multifamily. It's always been kind of, in our kind of focus areas. And we got involved with a lot of other things, but now we're growing focusing on our multifamily / apartment syndication business. That's really where we're focused on now.
Beautiful. For the DeRosa Group, are you guys, what's your portfolio looking like? Is it more like, larger buildings or a combination of stuff? And is it all locally here in New Jersey or outside in different markets?
Yeah. So we got our start in Jersey. So after that duplex, we decided to do a 1031 exchange into a fourplex in Ewing, New Jersey. So we were moving. So he ended up selling the property that he did the house hack, and then we bought a property together in New Jersey. At the time, my work was really focused on Jersey. So we really needed to live in Jersey. So we really then grew a portfolio close to home. At the time, we weren't thinking about, market analysis. We're like, okay, what can we afford? What's close? Yep. There was really not much more beyond that, to be honest with you. And we also wanted to make a difference. We were 10 minutes from Trenton, New Jersey. And for those not familiar with the Northeast or that city, urban community, still trying to figure itself out and redevelop, like many cities in New Jersey. So we then started to proceed with buying most of our properties in Trenton and the surrounding area, Mercer County. And that worked for many years. And then we got introduced to a property in Philadelphia. And we always had a 30-minute radius. We did not invest more than 30 minutes, probably for about 8 years, for many years. We had a team. We managed everything hands-on. We did not have a third-party manager, any of that kind of stuff. And then we got our first property introduced to us outside of Philly, which was in Lancaster, PA. So now it's an hour and a half, right? So now we've kind of like beyond the half hour rule we had. And at the time we said we can't use our own team. And obviously we had to really start to build that third party management company relationship. And that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And then most of the properties we've bought since then have been all more 50 plus buildings. And our largest is 222 units. And then those buildings are now in the Southeast. So we have properties in Kentucky and we have properties in North Carolina and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And we still have a portfolio in New Jersey. But between taxes and a lot of other things, the numbers just started not to make as much sense as it did when we started. So, we just wanted, and we also want to diversify. We have a pretty sizable portfolio in Trenton. Everything's multi except for we have one purely commercial building, and it's a 10,000 square foot commercial building that we is shared space and small office space for business owners. Wow. That's the only outlier in our portfolio, but that's something that we own. And then we own a lot of other buildings with passive investors and those sort of things. So.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the transition from kind of just the purple book that inspired you to all the way through, starting to go get educated at the local real, same thing like I did as well, investing in your backyard until you say, you know what, we got to change things, as we talked about before, pre-call, I'm in Connecticut, New Jersey, it's, regulatory, landlord friendly states. So you guys are then venturing out into these, other markets. For the other markets that you're invested in, can you kind of talk about what attracted you there and kind of some characteristics so people that may be interested in investing in there can learn more about it?
Sure. So with North Carolina, that was our first move from like PA, Jersey to the South. And we're in a town called Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
So it wasn't a Raleigh or Durham or those hot markets, but it was when we were looking at the numbers and analyzing the market, there was some really good signs, a lot of stability. We like to invest in stable, like workforce housing type of environments. This doesn't have to be we don't want it to be on any sort of like hottest market list exactly. Because you're going to pay for that unless you get this killer deal and it's under the radar, which is awesome, but a little harder to come by sometimes, those deals. So it was like those markets that are maybe up and coming, not yet on any list, but has potential and it has stability to it. Those are just kind of criteria that we have beyond just the specifics. That's the general. So we started to look at this building and there was a lot of possibility with the building. It was multiple buildings and it was a big value add opportunity, not just we talk a lot about value add in apartment building, investing. People are like, oh, value add. What does that really mean? There's different levels of value add. I mean, we bought multifamily that is 50% vacant and is a big turnaround job, right? That quote unquote is value add, but that's like a big value add opportunity.
Exactly.
Other people look for value add that's, 90% occupied and we change some units around and we're good to go. And then we get to a 95% occupancy. That's another value add. So why I say that is with this particular property, when we bought it and we purchased it, it was about 50%. Actually, it dipped down to 30% occupied. I mean, that's a big value add, right? You have over 200 unit building. That's a situation, right? It's not a 10 unit. It's a situation to turn around. So I say that just because, that is part of this business and having to manage that. Now you're not an hour and a half drive. Now you're an hour and a half plane ride, right? So the local feet on the street and all those sort of things became even more important. What we did though, like about the the area was just that the cost of living versus what they're renting the apartments for is reasonable, and there's people are flocking to the South in
Oh
different
yeah,
parts of the country, but
exactly.
certainly we know the Southeast a little bit better. That's where our stuff is right now. But you could see the same thing for Texas, right? You could see the same thing for a lot of other areas you start to see, because the numbers just don't work as well when you're in the Northeast, and people want more for their money. From why we went to Kentucky is we had a couple, and you have to grow your team. You can't analyze deals the way you analyze them. So you start to bring people on that really know, market analysis. And that's what they do, right? They're looking at crunching the numbers and looking at the areas in a whole different way than, we were doing, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
And we have two guys we work with now that are part of our team, part-time. They have full-time jobs, but they do this part-time. And they brought Lexington, Kentucky to us. And they're just like, there's a lot of good things happening here. And something that I never thought of when we started that they brought to us, especially with this particular area, it's something that, as you're listening, your listeners are hearing this, not just job growth, because we know, right? Obviously, no one wants to see jobs declining, right? And you'd be a moron to want to see that. But job diversity was another thing that became really important, right? So recession hits, are there different types of industries feeding this economy? And that became really important or something that really became very evident, I should say, in Kentucky, even more so than we ever saw in any of our other kind of, as we analyze markets. It became really important to see, and then to kind of see the numbers. The other thing is that, when you have an area that's landlocked, in other words, you cannot build anymore, also a good thing. And, you have some of these areas that just, they keep building, they have to keep building. While that's helpful on like the peripheral of saying, hey, that's great, there's a lot of great activity happening here, that's going to impact your, 30-year-old building that you just purchased, because there's new developments going in on, the next block. So again, not a deterrent to buy properties when you see development happening, but something to be mindful of. How are you going to differentiate? And particularly with Lexington, you can't build anymore. It's kind of, there's in terms of major stuff happening. There's stuff happening, but it's just something to be mindful as well. So
awesome.
Yeah. So those are the areas that brought us more.
Beautiful. And then kind of like moving forward, where you guys see the company, are you guys like for other markets that you're potentially looking at, would you guys be open or currently doing like joint ventures with other sponsors, or you guys are fully integrated where you guys are bringing your own team? You said you had like a part-time team, and then go in there and acquire the property and do everything yourself?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think we start out by doing everything ourselves and then building a team. And we have a great team now, especially on our apartment building syndication. We've also worked with other syndicators where they may need help raising money. And it's not something we commonly do, because you really need to trust that person. You need to come in as part of the team. Because obviously you're going to your investors, and we are very like I'm sure you, Dwaine, and anyone that works with someone who's you're investing their hard-earned money, you just want to make sure deeply that this is the right asset for them and the right team. And quite honestly, as we've gotten more tenured in this business, the team is everything to me. The deal is important, but the team is actually more important than the deal, because a great team can turn a deal around, and a really bad team can make a really good deal not work, and that you see that all the time. So anyway, so we are actually involved in a project right now in New Jersey. I know it kind of went back to Jersey, but a gentleman who is a team, husband and wife team, they're turning around a hotel/winery location. And it was a foreclosure, but on a big scale. And we're working with them as part of their team to help raise money and to really not turn it around operationally, but from a bringing people to the project. We just believe in them so much, and we believe in the project so much. And it's in South Jersey. So I'd say that was one of the first times we made it an exception, but it had to be an exceptional operator and an exceptional project for us to do that. So yeah, we're open to that, but we also are more in terms of like operating a lot of our deals as well. So, and we also have mentored folks, and they said, hey, can you help a little bit here? And not from a fee perspective, more from like okay, when this deal closes, we get a small slice of the equity kind of thing. And that helps them stay on the short and narrow and, the narrow road and all those sort of things. We have a few folks that we've worked with kind of, and again, people we know, or at least we get to know, and okay, is this someone for real? And someone that's actually going to do what they say they're going to do, all those sort of things.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So a couple of those, but our main focus is finding the property, putting the right team in place and getting it to fruition.
Awesome. You had mentioned kind of like for your investors and stuff like that. I know you guys do like a tremendous amount of education and, you're very active on Bigger Pockets and you just like bringing so much value, especially with your track record and everything. But you can give some people some tips on what worked well for you as far as kind of bringing more awareness to your business as far as for investors.
Sure. And I know a lot of folks know Joe Fairless and know of him. And we took a mentorship program with him about 4 or 5 years ago. And something he told us, and I just want to give him credit because if it wasn't for him, I don't think we would have thought of it in this way. But he said, you really need to be a thought leader. And at that point we were blogging, we were doing stuff, but we didn't put a stake in the ground. We were doing a little of this, we were doing a little of that. And at that point we had like 600 subscribers on our YouTube channel. He said, you got to focus on something. If it's YouTube, go on YouTube and make that a focus. And at that point we were kind of, as we thought of it, we'd put a video up. Oh, we feel like putting a video up this week kind of thing. And that's the worst thing you should do when you're putting content out, right? Doing like, 1 week you're like, I'm not going to put a podcast out this week. And, people aren't going to start to trust you, right? That becomes trust and credibility. And you build trust and credibility by consistency. Simple as that. So at that point we said, okay, let's put a stake in the ground and focus on YouTube and focus on building our YouTube channel. So that's what we did about 4 or 5 years ago. And we have about 22,000 subscribers, which is good. I know we're not like the big channels, but we've grown it and we're proud of that. We do two videos a week and we try to make them as real and as authentic and just as content heavy as we can in the time we have versus, a video that person's just babbling and they're really not giving any content. We all seen those videos. Or it's like, watch my next video for that really good information. And you're like, can I just watch this video? Cause I just want to get the information that your stupid title told me. But anyway, so that's what we focused on. And then for me, in terms of content, getting focused on as a thought leader, I really had a passion to support women in this business. And there's a lot of them, but you can't, it's sometimes harder to find it at the REIA meetings and conferences. It just tends to be a little less women than men. And not that I only work with women by any means. I love men. I love you, Dwaine. I love my husband. We have a lot of men on our team, to be honest with you. I've always worked well with them and they're great. But I just wanted to create a community. And I had a real passion to support women. And so a friend and / business partner and I got together, Andressa and I got together and said, let's do a podcast. And at that point we knew nothing about podcasting. And that was about 1.5 years ago. So we have a podcast called the Real Estate Investor Show. So, and we're building a community and a whole kind of like movement around supporting women, meetups around the country and all that, which has kind of grown into its own entity. But people will come to me and say, women will come and say, hey, what do you have going on in terms of investing and things? And other people, or people will connect with Matt. So between the two of us, we're out and about doing our own thing. And my husband likes to talk about creative financing and a lot of other of his kind of shtick that he likes to talk about. But yeah, I mean, we both are kind of passionate about what we do and then kind of come together to support people and really education is big to us because we love learning ourselves. So
yeah, it's like I said, it's a community and like everyone rises up. And like I said, I've been watching you guys for years. His channel, your channel, with the mentorship Mondays and like all the different seminars and stuff like that. I know you guys have got a book and everything, and then your podcast. And one of the things I had when I was listening to the podcast, you had a very interesting thing just mentioning about partnering with your business partner is structuring partnership. I think it was one of your recent ones or latest ones.
Mini-sode.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Like I said, the information from there. Can you kind of talk about like the value of putting together good partnerships and how it can make it a win-win situation for everybody?
Yeah. And I think the reason for the topic of partnerships in real estate is that there's so many different aspects of this business. And I rarely know people that really are great in all of them or they excel in all of them. It's very rare. I'm sure there are some. We met some great syndicators, for example, for them to be the one that raises the money, operates the deal, they're great with numbers, and they're great with people. It's just, there's a lot to it. So what ends up happening is you become, you quickly learn that you cannot be good at everything, and you really need to hone in on what you're good at and start to build partnerships. And it can be scary. Some people partner, oh, I met you at a REIT meeting, let's go buy a building together. And other people take 10 years to partner with people. So I don't really suggest either, but it's just like marriage. You date and you get to know each other, and it's the same. I always equate partnership as the same thing. My friend Andressa and I, and we've had really good ones and we've had really bad ones. So we've had both. And I could tell you from the ones that, that didn't work out, that, you have to align certain things and you have to be different in certain things. So if I will, you have to be very good. You have to be aligned with certain aspects, your values. If you do not have the same values, delayed gratification is a value. I mean, if you're going to embark on buying property, it is not a quick win. It's not like you don't make the money when you buy the property. You renovate it, you refinance it, you add the value. You have to stabilize assets. And people don't talk about that enough. Oh, I bought a 40 unit. Is it stable? Are you making anything from it?
Exactly.
You don't necessarily know that. Just because you own property doesn't mean you're actually, making money from stable assets. So for example, partners that didn't work out, it just ended up being, our values were not always aligned. And also it just, where you were great there, you initially say, oh, they'll be able to do this and I'll be able to do that. And then you start to see, things just aren't working out. And it's really hard. It's like literally ending a marriage. I've never ended a marriage, but I've been married 15 years, but it's not easy. And it's people need to be able to really look themselves in the mirror, take responsibility, not blame, and then grow together. That's not easy for everyone, to be honest with you. So, but there are different ways to bring people in. You don't necessarily have to go into quote unquote marriage and create this big company with this one person. You can start out in a smaller way. When we first started working with Andressa, who's now my partner on the investor side, we were good friends for a few years. We went to each other's kids' birthday parties. We were just good friends. We had a mastermind together. We did on Zoom. So we knew each other really well. We knew each other's businesses. We knew each other what each other's good at and what we weren't good at. Then we partnered on our first deal together, and it was a JV opportunity where our company bought the property, but we were 50-50 in essence, partnership in the sense that whatever profit came in, we were going to split between us and Andressa and her husband at the time. So then we ended up doing that, and it worked out. And we did a number of deals together under that circumstance, and overall our partnership worked out really well. And but you need to have you need to look at what types of different ways you want to approach it. You have people that want to just lend you money and they just want to be a lender. They're really not a partner, they're a lender, right? But if someone says, oh, I'm going to give you $100,000 and you go find the property and then you do everything. Well, you have to be really careful, and I'm not an SEC attorney by any means, so do not take my word for it, but you have to be very careful how people fund deals and what they're called and the roles they have. And Gene Trowbridge wrote a lot of good books on it. And it's basically, in my husband's book, Raising Private Capital, he talks about the 4 prongs. Is that, how do you disqualify your investment from filing it with the SEC?
Right.
If you're literally just, people are giving you money, not giving you money, but putting money into an LLC or an LP or whatever function it is, and literally just doing that and not having any other role, then that's a passive investor. And that's really something that should be filed with the SEC, whether it is a $50,000 deal or a $500 million deal. And actually the size of the deal does not matter.
Exactly.
People think of syndication like big apartment buildings. It has nothing to do with that really. But if you're going to go down that path for a $50,000 property, it just doesn't, make a whole lot of sense. If the profit in the deal is not maybe sizable for people. So why I say that is, you have to know what you're getting yourselves into. Right. For our first private money deal, gentlemen, one of our private money partners, still a private money partner, 9 years later, and he put in $50,000. We put in our track record and our kind of sweat equity at the time. It's one of our first, beyond friends and family, one of our first investors. And he also had a role. He personally guaranteed the loan. We had a weekly call to talk about the management of the property. He was a funny, he had kind of finance as his background. So he helped in other ways. We were like the boots on the ground. We knew landlording. We knew the contractors in town. We knew all of that. But he was 50-50 partner. It was not, he just didn't put 50 grand in and say, I'm out. Because that's a more passive investor. So I just say that it's a whole ball of wax to get into. I could go talk another hour on it, but how active or how passive do people want to be or need to be is a big question. If you're talking to your buddies, you're talking to your friend or your colleagues, and you start to say, oh, we could do stuff together. Well, roles, responsibilities, expectations, and also the legality of it is pretty important and pretty critical if you're bringing money into a pool.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, it's not as simple, but like I said, I like that you broke it down and kind of like the intent and kind of like who's people's role and things like that. And of course, synergies, can people work together and stuff like that. So yeah, beautifully said. I love that a lot. So yeah, I appreciate that. For people to kind of learn a little bit more about you, what's kind of like a typical day? You're running, the podcast business, you're running the investment business. You guys are out speaking, doing educational stuff. What's kind of a typical work day for you?
Every day is a little different, Dwayne, to be honest with you. And I think I like it that way because, I've always kind of either worked for myself or I worked for a consulting firm where I worked from home. So I kind of had my own ability to create my own schedule, which I'm really grateful for. But, and I'm home part-time with my little ones. So I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it depends on the day. So I have my daughter's in a part-time daycare. So those days, my son's on the bus to school, she's in her school. And, I kind of jump into either I'm doing some DeRosa work, which is like I help a lot out with our investor side of our business. We're putting different things in the process to help communicate more effectively with our investors, like a portal. So I'm kind of helping with those projects, our newsletter, our communications, those kind of things. So I have kind of responsibilities I do with that. And then I have like time blocking for my invest her work. And Wednesdays are more of my invest her work where we're doing our podcasts or I'm following up on meetups and trying to grow. We're creating a membership as well for women who want a little more depth into what they're doing. So yeah, my part-time time is broken up into those two focuses, but I'm specific. And I also sometimes get up, quite honestly, I'm really good at in the morning. So like days that I don't have like a quote unquote, 8 hours to my disposal during the day, like the day we're talking today, and if it's not nap time, I usually get up like early. I get up like 4 a.m. And I get like 3 hours of my kind of business I need to get done. And it's wonderful. I put my relaxing music on, I pray, I meditate, but that works for me. I can't stay up late. I'm not a late person. I just cannot stay up late. So I'm a morning person. So typical day is tough, but I think it has a lot to do with knowing what kind of time I have to put aside to my work activities and then setting myself up hopefully for success for that. It's not always perfect, overwhelm sets in sometimes, but I feel like I really love all the things I'm working on. So those are all good things, that give me energy.
Exactly. Yeah. If you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work and stuff. And we definitely relate right there. I have 2 kids, 2 and 5. Oh
my gosh.
My son is 5 and my daughter's 2 and stuff.
Same with me.
My daughter's not in any daycare right now. My wife stays at home with the kid. But then we send Jordan off to school, and again, as you gotta work your day and get up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to make it work. So that's beautiful to hear. So
yeah,
glad I'm getting some tips there. So
and you have a support of with me and my husband. It's like, okay, who's going to the gym this morning? What who's doing what, and he's out a lot in the evening. I'm out sometimes, so it's just a lot of communication. We go over our weeks every Sunday mostly. Say, what are we doing? Where are we going? Who needs support where, and someone has to take the role, the lead at home. I mean, you cannot have both people unless you have like an au pair or, and that's great if that's your family setup. I'm the one that takes lead at home, and I'm also really passionate about other things, but I'm mom first and wife, and I have to think, and then everything comes along with that. And obviously putting myself first and all the priorities, but keeping it all in check. You can't get it all done sometimes, but
exactly,
you got to focus on what's important and get those things done.
Beautiful. Yeah, very well said. So as far as kind of, you mentioned a lot of things, you guys have a tremendous amount of success. You guys have a lot of stuff in the future. What can you say that you're most grateful for?
I'd say from a business growth perspective, I'm grateful that we've never gave up, because there was a lot of times, and I think people don't talk about this enough, in different blogs. Who doesn't like talking about their successes? I mean, I love
Mm-hmm.
talking about our successes, but you don't have all successes, and you have
Mm-hmm.
failures, and you have challenges, and you have things that just screw up, and just bad things happen sometimes. They don't always happen. I believe the world is great. I think you make your reality, and the more positive you are, you put it out, you get out what you put out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes just really tough things happen, and we cannot control them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm grateful that we never gave up. And because there's a lot of times that, you bang your head against the wall and you're like, this is tough, really tough, and you just kind of persevere through it. And you take everything you've learned, and you keep getting better. And it's not always easy, because you sometimes feel like you should be there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I just speak personally, and we've been in this a long time, but you can't always know everything, and you're going to have new challenges, and it's just about growing and, doing the right thing. So
Mm-hmm.
never giving up, I think, is my biggest gratitude. Because now you're on the other side of that challenge, and you're like,
Exactly.
okay, that's why that happened. And this is where we were able to grow. So
Beautiful. Yeah, like I said, really resonate with that a lot. And like, I know a lot of people will hear that, and they can also get in touch with that as well. So that's awesome. Liz, it was beautiful to speak with you. How do we get in touch
absolutely.
with you?
Sure. Thanks, Dwayne. Yeah, so good to connect with you too. There's a couple ways you could certainly, for folks just wanting to learn a little bit our real estate activity and some of our projects, they can go over to DeRosaGroup.com, DeRosaGroup.com. And from there, you can go to our YouTube channel, where there's a ton of activity of, we post twice a week on things happening, or whiteboarding a, video or what have you. And then also, on there too is everything regarding the podcast. So, women listening, or the women, men listening that have women in their lives that are intrigued. It's called therealestateinvesther.com. And we have a separate website, but you can get it from going to DeRosa Group. And then we have a podcast and meetups and all that kind of stuff you can find. So
Beautiful. Yeah, we'll make sure to have it all in the show notes.
Great.
Again, like I said, it's from the episodes I'm gonna, have my wife and also listen to on the different podcasts and stuff.
Great.
I'm always connected with your YouTube, but I learned about this one as well. I was kind of getting prepared for this show, and like I said,
Yeah.
it's great information. I like that you're putting together a community, and then you're bringing it to another level and stuff like that. That's awesome. So, Liz,
Awesome.
It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your week, and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.